Now, I'm normally in Oklahoma, taking pictures of Oklahoma things, so what in the heck am I doing in Albuquerque? Well, you see, my sister Jet is a balloon pilot, and she owns her own balloon, named Apache. Apache like the helicopter. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, I flew out to her place and we did a 2-day, 1,600-mile road trip from South Carolina to Albuquerque. "1,600 miles in 2 days sounds like a lot, because it is. But it really wasn't that bad because we got to stop at my favorite place along the way.
We made it to Pussy's.
We also saw a lot of billboards for this guy, who really wants you to know that his name is Alexander.
Oh, there's another one up there. I think he's having an identity crisis.
Now, because this part of the trip was balls-to-the-wall driving, there wasn't time for photography, which was unfortunate because we got to see some of the marvels of America along the way.
Yes. Oh my God, there's the pyramid. Yeah.
Anyways, that joke's a lot less funny the second time. We stopped at my place in Oklahoma that night, and then trudged through North Texas the next day. That afternoon, we finally rolled into Albuquerque. While Jet went to go check in her balloon and get registered at Fiesta, I took a nap for 4 or 5 hours on the living room floor of our Airbnb. Later that evening, I got up and I finally popped off my first shot of film. The Sandia Mountains on Portra 400 and the GW 690. Now this shot's pretty and everything, but I know you didn't come here to see a picture of some stinking mountain above Albuquerque. Opening morning, the winds were high, so the field was held on a yellow flag, meaning that flying was a maybe. I watched Jet and her crew set up her basket while we waited to see if flying was in the cards that day. The photos I shot here were taken on my Canon AE1 with a very special roll of Fuji Superia Venus 800 that expired in 2021. Right when they finished setting up the basket, they started the morning ceremonies, and they are pretty spectacular. Right after the national anthem, they do what's called an all burn, which is when all the baskets on the field fire their burners all at the same time. It's all pretty captivating, which is why I only got one picture of the planes flying overhead on their very last pass. Right as the field got a green flag, I slapped a roll of Pro 400H into the GW. Now, I've been carrying this roll around with me all summer, and I think it definitely shows in the colors here. Not only is it expired, but the colors have shifted significantly to a blue and very faded look. Even though we had a green flag that morning, Jet had opted not to fly. The winds were pretty high, and she just didn't feel comfortable flying that day, which was actually okay with me, because even though I only had 2 days there, this would let me get 2 different perspectives of Fiesta. One from the ground, and hopefully, one from the air. So I just made my way down the field to where the action was, and I tried to soak it all in.
Let's go this way and around.
It really is a shame that Fuji discontinued this film stock in 2019, because by far, even though it is extremely grainy, this film has produced some of the best colors I've ever seen using color negative film. And sadly, it was only a 27 exposure roll, which is where I switched to Loma 100 here. shot through this roll of Loma 100, I worked my way back up the field, and eventually I got back to Jet's launch site, where I finished up my roll of Pro 400H. Now it could just be me, but the look that I got with this expired 400H really reminds me of Loma Metropolis. Do you see it? Once all the balloons that were flying that day had left the field, we just spent the afternoon tailgating. That evening we went to the pilot's briefing, and then it was time to start the evening events. Now in the evening they do what's called a glow. It's a lot like the all burn in the morning, but it's a little bit different. Now what makes the glow different than the all burn is typically, depending on the wind, pilots will set up their balloons and the balloons will glow. But just like that morning, the winds were still pretty high that night, and you can see that there's quite a few people on each basket trying to keep these balloons on the ground. I didn't have a tripod with me, so I didn't shoot any film that night. I just watched the glow. Seeing Dawn Patrol that morning was pretty special. Not only is it really cool to see these balloons lighting up and fading away into the dark, Dawn Patrol being up and flying meant winds were favorable, and that meant, shortly, we were going to be flying too.
Liftoff. I'll keep an eye on you.
As we were taking off, Jeff, who is Jet's pilot mentor and also a comedian, had this to say.
I forgot the steering wheel. I can't come back. I don't know how it works.
I wish I had a better picture to show off here, but Humpty Dumpty was the first thing I saw as we were taking off.
Watching us.
Something cool that happened though is we were featured on Balloon Fiesta Live as we took off, and you could see me taking my next picture, which was just okay. What was kind of cool though was when we were on the stream, the hosts of Balloon Fiesta Live were talking about the number of film photos they had from over the years.
Yeah, that doesn't count all those film photos from all the years.
And just this photo. I bet you have others.
This shot really captures the scale of Fiesta. There's not really anything like it. Fiesta is 10 days long, and over those 10 days, over 1 million people go through Balloon Fiesta Park. That's over 100,000 people a day. And they come from all over the world just for a chance to be up close and maybe be a part of a balloon launch. Not to mention the thousands of crew members who come from across the world as well, and the thousands of volunteers who make Fiesta run every year. This was the last shot on the roll of Portra 800 I had. After that, I loaded a roll of Provia 100F. And it ended up being the best roll of the trip by far. Out of the 8 shots I got on this roll, only 2 were underexposed. And even then, compositionally, they were still pretty good.
Look at this turn.
Now in my mind, there's something about film photography and hot air balloons that make them just go together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Maybe it's because they're both antiquated technologies that don't really have a purpose anymore, and people just use them for fun now. Or maybe it's just because both of them are really freaking cool. Anyways, this last shot I got on this roll of Provia was by far the best. Not only was the metering just perfectly spot on, but the composition is great. Not only are all of the technical aspects there, but to me this shot really evokes the feeling of what ballooning is all about. As we came in for our landing, I loaded up my last roll of Portrait 400, and the pictures I got on it were just okay. Some of them are still worth showing, but they definitely weren't my favorite from the flight. We landed in the parking lot of the park, and just like that, my first balloon flight that was 40 minutes long and only felt like 5 came to an end. And that was a bummer, because that meant my time at Fiesta and hanging out with my sister and her crew was also at an end. I was only there for 2 days, but Fiesta, the atmosphere, and the people had really grown on me. Coming here, let alone being a part of it, had never really crossed my mind, and now I didn't want to leave. Now, because I left Fiesta so early, I wasn't really sure how I was going to end this video. So let me end by saying life is short, and if you get a chance to do something, even if it's just a quick trip like this, you should take it. Spend more time with your siblings, go for a ride in a hot air balloon, and shoot more film.